What's going on, everybody? I'm making this video because by the end of it, I hope to have a biggest compilation and the most honest and accurate analysis on the silent majority. And I consider the silent majority to be a lot of different people. I'll get into that in a second, but should and hopefully will be by the end the most accurate analysis of the silent majority, what the media doesn't understand, and what a lot of people still don't understand, and it's very necessary to understand. I'm gonna wait about 10 seconds for people to get into the live stream. Thank you so much for joining. If you'd like, you can follow me on Instagram at DreamRare. You can follow me on Twitter at Legendary Energy. My website is legendary.vision, and I'm gonna post my email link and my donation link below when this is done if you would like to support my analysis and stay connected. So as people come in, gonna wait about 5-10 more seconds. People are still pouring in. No, I'm just playing, but coming into the live stream. The silent majority is one of the biggest groups in America, and now it's part of other countries too, just people coming together, part of this majority, like I said, that can't really voice their opinions in public because they'll get demonized. In some cases, they'll get fired. They will lose friends and family members, possibly ruin their lives with a loved one or people that they care about. So the silent majority is so enormous, so underreported and so misreported. I am making this video because I honestly, people that are part of the silent majority, I think will listen to this and feel a sigh of relief, like, wow, somebody understands. Finally, there's more people like me that get how I feel. And the people who hate the silent majority or hate President Trump or hate conservatives or hate anybody who disagrees with them regardless of their political affiliation, this should honestly serve as a guide to people in that realm as to how to understand it and how to fix the problem they want to solve. Excuse me. Because when there's a problem, the way you solve the problem is by first understanding what it is and then finding a proper solution to it and a way to, heal that problem. The silent majority is not going away, and a lot of these problems that the Trump-hating crowd, that Trump haters, that they want to solve, they're actually never going to solve at the current rate, and they're just going to keep making the problems worse and worse and worse and worse because they don't understand the problem. And a major reason why they don't understand it is because the mainstream media has never told the truth about the silent majority. They must have hundreds of thousands of fake news articles, lies, complete misrepresentations, their interpretation, their perspective on Trump, their perspective on his supporters, their perspective on people who don't like political correctness, their perspective on people who don't like regime change wars, their perspective on people who are sick of fake feminism and fake racism, their perspective on people who are just tired of phony politicians and who knows what's really going on. They've blasted so much misinformation about the silent majority that the people who believe these lies are becoming intolerable and in some cases violent. And like I said, I'm going to take you through this down a road and talk about every situation and how the media misrepresented what the truth is. And if you're an honest person who really wants to solve the problem and really wants to stop racism and sexism and xenophobia and over right-wing extremism, you will listen to me because I will help you. I will help you solve this problem. I will help you succeed and win and, have success in your real life. If you don't want to listen to me, it's totally fine. Everybody has the freedom to do as they please, but just be prepared to keep losing. Be prepared for 8 years of President Trump. Be prepared for the loss of pretty much all the ideals that you believe in because you're being lied to about the silent majority. Everything the news is saying is a lie. They blanket it with the terms alt-right, and they've got people to believe these lies. I have, once again, most people that I come across that, I don't even say, oh my God, I love President Trump, build a wall, it's the greatest thing, blah, 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 make America great again. That's not my approach. I just say, I think he's underrated. And 90% of people blow up at me, start screaming their opinions at me, and I say, hey, I consider what you're saying. I totally understand that perspective, and I consider it as a possibility. I've not ruled that out. How about what I say? And I say some basic truths of just like, hey, this could be, optimistic in this way, and now it's open in 2020, and now the world, a lot of veils have been lifted, and, this can be great in the future. And they just can't even consider it, can't even accept it, and in some cases judge me so much that they won't even speak to me again. So this needs to be heard, and you know, I tell everybody this. It's just the truth. You know, it's not going to go away. The silent majority is not going to go away. And I want to first off address the fact that, you know, the main thing is everybody's racist. Everyone who likes Trump, they have to be racist. I will admit 110%, like I always do when people talk to me, I do think if you're a super extremist, racist American, white American, male American, super extremist, and you are incredibly racist, I 110% think that President Trump would be the appealing character in your life. 1,000%. I don't disagree at all. Between Bernie Sanders, Hillary Clinton, and President Trump, there's no doubt in my mind that the most racist, the most fringe racist people in America love President Trump. That's, I would never deny. I think that's truth. But that percentage is so small compared to the silent majority and how big it's growing. And when I go to these events and I see people in Make America hats and T-shirts, and they're Asian, they're Muslim, they're they're white, they're black, they're men, they're women, and there's millions of them, and there's tens of millions of them, and there's hundreds of millions of them, and most of them are very tolerant, most of them are very intelligent, most of them are very considerate and respectful. And what I'm seeing is that the opposition of them, the opposition of Trump, the opposition of the silent majority, they're not tolerant, they don't understand, and they're actually making the fringe sides more mad. And this goes for all people. I think to stop racism, you have to understand why people are racist. Whether you're black, whether you're white, whether you're Latino or Asian, why are people racist? You know, if somebody is racist, it probably stems from misinformation, it probably stems from fear, it probably stems from a fear of something, like losing something in their life, losing their culture, losing their safety, losing their security. There's many ignorance, possibly lack of traveling and seeing people of other ethnicities and going to their home countries and seeing how people act in the world. That's the root cause of it. And I always reference this because it was one of the most brilliant documentaries I've ever seen. But Daryl Davis, who was a black man, who was a musician in the 60s and 70s, he disarmed and made like 10 plus KKK Grand Wizards quit the KKK. And he did so by being so nice to them that they realized that they weren't racist, because once they got to know Daryl Davis and what an incredible human being he was, they realized that they liked him a lot more than they liked their white friends and they liked their other, KKK weirdos. So they actually quit the KKK because he listened to them. And I'm not saying that you have to do that. I'm not saying you have to go befriend a KKK member or a Nazi or a communist or whatever. I'm just saying it's an effective strategy if you're truly trying to disarm the problem and get to the root of it. Because when you listen to people, that's when they listen to you. If you just scream at people, and this is so widespread, it's what the media does every single day, and it's what almost every single person who is left-leaning or who hates President Trump does. Even my most tolerant friends, even my most respectful, understanding friends who don't hate all conservatives and hate all Trump supporters, they still, for a big part of it, think and misrepresent the silent majority. They buy into the fact that the only people who voted for Trump are uneducated. They say, anomaly, I feel you, but he won because of uneducated, he won because of Russia. And if you don't understand the problem, it's never going to go away. And I think that goes to both sides, just to keep it real, similar to how conservatives and Trump supporters scream at Colin Kaepernick and yell, blah, 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 you don't deserve to be man of the year, this and that. Even if you feel that way, it's not accurate, or it's not an effective way to get people to stop being the Colin Kaepernicks. If you want to disarm those people and get them to see your perspective by screaming at them and posting pictures, making fun of Colin Kaepernick, you're just making the extremists on that side even more extreme. So if that's your strategy, to just, make people more mad at you and hate you and not understand you, that's fine. I mean, it's fun for some people. I get it. It's funny. I like to laugh at a few jokes sometimes. I'm a very humorous person, but it's just not an effective strategy, and I see both sides doing it. But back to the silent majority, this is why it keeps growing. If you keep lying about the problem, and they've gotten to the point where almost everyone who hates President Trump doesn't understand the silent majority. And I try to explain nothing about what the media says makes sense, and nothing about what the Trump haters say makes sense. When you talk about border security, just to start, I'm going to go point by point and go through all of the things that they don't understand. A wall, build a wall. Okay, the Trump lovers, I think the silent majority and the people that are just sick of the nonsense, they look at the wall and they say, a large portion of them say it's a common sense approach. Absolutely, like I said, I think there's a small fringe group. If you are massively racist, you'll be like, oh yeah, a wall, keep our own people here. But that is such a small percentage. The Trump haters think that's 100%, like literally they've convinced themselves, even very intelligent people, they think 100% of people who support a wall are just racists who want to keep America white, when nothing about that argument makes sense. I would say up to 90-95% of people who want the wall to be built are not racist, and many of them include Latinos and Mexicans and people of other ethnicities, because it's just a common sense approach. If you fly to, and I'm not going to get into this debate right now, you could have your own interpretation of it, but if you try to fly to Europe or go to Canada or go anywhere without a visa or a driver's license or proof of who you are, see what happens. You're not going to be allowed to go. So the fact that we're not even allowed to have a conversation, an accurate conversation about the border wall, the silent majority keeps getting bigger. And now it includes people like myself, who I was never really appealed to the build a wall, build a wall. Like, that's not really my campaign call. I didn't think it was that great during the election, but now when I listen to the other side, it's like I hear how irrational they're being. I hear how they're intolerant to even have a conversation about the wall. And then I meet a bunch of people who are part of the silent majority, who are women who are environmentalists, women who are animal activists, and they're peace activists, and there's Muslim men, and there's, black and Asian and white, and just good people that aren't racist, and good people from Central United States, and people from Texas, and people from North Carolina, and people from New Jersey, people from everywhere. I have followers and supporters from every single state, every single continent, every single country, and nobody messages me anything remotely racist. So this is why that side keeps building. And this conversation, it seems so basic, it seems so common sense, but if you talk to 90% of people who hate the president, you can't even talk like this, because they're ready to bite your head off at the fact that you don't think everything in the world is racist. And on to travel security, it's the same exact thing. I fully understand what's going on in the Middle East. I talk about it all the time, and there's a lot of bad situations. There's, extremism is on the rise. Terrorism is on the rise. No, it's not all one religion, and it's not all one race. I would say it's mostly all one gender, to be honest. Men are usually the terrorists, and men kill a lot of people, but I'm not on my feminist tip. I'm just being honest. That seems to be a correlation. But radical, religious terrorism exists, and to act like it doesn't is ridiculous. So once again, you have the silent majority, who in many cases, I think there's a small fringe group who might be extremists, but the majority of the silent majority says, hey, there's wars going on, there's extremism, there's people blowing themselves up, stabbing people, acid attacks, using cars to kill people. Why don't we take a year off from a few of these countries and, reevaluate once we get a little peace and less refugees and less crisis over there? So, and then you go to the other side, and you would think that there would be a rational argument or conversation, and in some small cases I think there are, but for the most part, it's like, if you don't agree with me, you're a racist. If you don't agree with me, you're a sexist. If you don't agree with me, you're an extremist, and I won't even consider what you're saying. I consider all of those things. I consider everything that people tell me, but the problem is, like they've branded the intolerant left, people have become so intolerant, it's not even funny. That's why I'm making this video, because if you really want to understand the silent majority and you really want to stop President Trump, not that I think you're going to be able to, because he's a very strong candidate, he's a very, in my opinion, productive person, and someone who understands social media, someone who understands the world, someone who understands economy and whatnot, so it's not going to be easy to stop him. But if you understand this, you have a better chance of rebuilding and growing and really fixing these problems of racism, sexism, xenophobia. But if you lie about it, if the media continues to lie about it, and almost every story that they write on it is a total lie, and they've been using this as a shield to accept accountability for anything. If somebody gets accused or caught doing something ridiculous, they'll call it a right-wing conspiracy or an alt-right. And I think the alt-right does exist to a small level. I think the extremism exists on the right, but when you're a left-leaning person or a politician, and anytime something happens, you just call everything a far-right conspiracy, or you blame it on the alt-right. And if you talk about Seth Rich, that's alt-right, even though it was a left-leaning issue at first. I mean, you're going to lose more and more people to the silent majority, because the silent majority is a home for discussion. To be honest, by far, I've met hundreds of people who support President Trump, and very few of them are very, very ignorant. Lots of them are very, very intelligent. Even when I disagree with them, they might have something to me that I consider, a little wrong or ignorant or incorrect, but their tolerance level is so much higher than the Trump haters. The Trump haters, in my opinion, I don't know if it's like the programming from the TV and the screen, because we get all our information from a little box. Think about how creepy that is. It's like we stare at a box and then we think we know everything. There's been so much programming that people think they know everything, and they're not even able to have a conversation. And that's why I'm making this video, because it's not going to go away. These problems are not going to go away. These problems that you're creating are just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger, because you're not being honest about why they exist and who they are. If you're looking at a pool of 200 million people plus 300 million people, 400 million people who aren't going to voice their opinions because they're afraid to talk to you, and you continue to think that they're all white supremacists when in reality 95+% of them are not, why would the problem go away? I mean, the approach makes no sense. We're also sick of political correctness, and like George Carlin said, political correctness is fascism with manners. If you look at the definition of political correctness, it tells you it's lying to somebody so you don't offend them. I mean, who in their right mind supports that type of stuff? That's a large reason that President Trump won. And the misinformation about all of these things I'm saying, the silent majority that is just growing bigger and bigger and bigger. You're talking about 65 million people who voted for him, and I know at least 30, 40, 50 million more people now support him because they've seen what he's done, they see what the media is doing, they're listening to all sides, and they're impressed more with him than they are with his opposition, like I am. I always say I see his flaws. I take into consideration all these negative things that people say about him, but I also watch their actions. I see who they are. I see their flaws that they think that they're covering up by, pointing the problem at him. But like I tweeted and posted on Facebook earlier, almost every single person that I found that is like completely intolerant and just very, very hateful towards the president, they almost always tell me all of their problems. Like without me even asking, they tell me that they have, a bunch of problems in their own life, and they're stressed, and they're, all strung out or this or that. And no hate, no disrespect, it's all love, but it's just a pattern I've seen. I didn't ask. I don't, tell people to tell me these things, but there's a correlation between people that are unhappy in their own lives and trying to scapegoat someone else, as a lot of journalists, I believe, do. I think I'm the only news analyst or journalist that tells people, like, hey, drink water, like, take care of yourself, change yourself to change the world. Anomaly, how do I help? How do I do all these things? I always say, just be a good person in daily life. Like when you go to the coffee shop, be respectful to people, be considerate, be kind. Don't treat everybody around you like a slave. I see some people that act like they're going to fight racism and sexism, but then when they're in an Uber, they're disrespectful to the Uber driver, and they're disrespectful to the barista at the coffee shop, and they're disrespectful. So how are you going to save the world when you're not even, doing it in a small scale? So to me, that's the most important thing. But you don't hear that in journalism. You don't hear that in politics, because people's entire philosophy revolves around pointing the finger at other people without self-reflecting and becoming a better person ourselves. So when it comes to the silent majority, this should be a guide for progressives and Democrats, as well as a sigh of relief from conservatives and Republicans. You're lying about this, and I don't understand where people are trying to take this, because they're making up Russia conspiracies, they're lying in the news every day, they're lying on Twitter every day, they're lying on Facebook every day, they're lashing out at their friends when they tell them the truth, they're lashing out at their family members and their coworkers when they try to have a very basic, simple, common sense conversation where it doesn't matter agree or disagree, but it's all about consideration and understanding and learning and knowledge and wisdom and this type of stuff. But I don't understand what people's end game is, because if you're projecting this whole reality that doesn't exist. Like in your head, everyone who likes Trump is a white supremacist, and there's no other possible way you can like him, and he's just a wealthy person trying to enrich himself, and that's why he's president, and he's trying to destroy the planet. You're totally allowed to think that way. I even consider it myself. I wouldn't say I rule it out. I wouldn't rule out the fact that he's doing it for money. I understand he's incredibly about money. My personal, analysis of it is I think he's trying to make the country wealthier. I think it totally is a capitalist at heart. I think there's flaws to his, philosophy, but I don't think he's doing it for his personal wealth. I think he's doing it for, to make this country greater, like he says all the time. But I consider the opposition. The problem is the opposition doesn't consider what I'm saying, and what I'm saying is most likely the reality of the situation. So if you live in this alternate reality that has been created by the media, that has been created by your projections and your inner, situations that you refuse to kind of reflect on, it's only going to get worse and worse and worse. And I see people, I'm saying this really, sometimes I joke, sometimes I have fun, but I'm saying this in the kindest way. I see people destroying themselves physically, mentally, and emotionally, a lot of the Trump-hating crowd, because if you live in this alternate reality that's super negative, that's super dishonest, that's super basically been crafted by some of the biggest criminals on the planet and some of the most corrupt politicians and corrupt, media sources that have literally been a PR team for things that are 20 times worse than what they're projecting onto Trump. I understand Trump's flaws, but what if I told you that the media conglomerate and the politicians that are accusing him of stuff have done 20 times worse in almost every aspect, sexually, mentally, economically, foreign policy-wise? It's up for consideration. I don't doubt that, maybe that's not true and maybe it didn't. But if you can't even consider that and you're just destroying yourself, I just don't understand the end game for people that feel this way. And even, like I said, my brightest, friends that are progressives and liberals that I could have a great conversation with, we can agree to disagree, have a good time, and still be friends. They still, for the most part, want to believe that the silent majority doesn't exist, that it's not getting bigger. In some cases, tell me, no, I think, the opposition's, and I'm like, no, trust me, man. Like, if he won the election by 65 million votes in 2016, he's going to get like 100 million votes, if not more, in 2020. And in my analysis, that's why they're pushing so hard to get him out of office. They need to impeach him, or they need to make up a charge, or they need to get rid of him, because they can't do it democratically. They rigged this whole election and then blamed him for rigging it, and have made up this whole entire conspiracy that points back to them. After a year of investigation, we have found out that 20% of the United States uranium got sold to Russia. Whether $130 million plus went to Hillary Clinton's foundation or not, that still has yet to be confirmed. It's basically confirmed, but I'm going to pretend like it's not because, for other reasons. But even if she didn't enrich herself personally and it wasn't a quid pro quo that was basically, completely misrepresented and hid by the media, even if it wasn't like that and they just sold 20% of the uranium, think about how much the media is truly lying to you and misleading to you if their own cronies and the own people that they protect sold 20% of the United States uranium to Russia, even if they didn't enrich themselves, which they did, but if they didn't. And now they're acting like Russia is the number one enemy. They've restarted the Cold War. They've restarted McCarthyism in the United States. We're back to the 1900s. Everything they accuse of President Trump, he's going to bring us back to the 17th century. While they're bringing us back to the 17th century. How does that make sense? So they sold the uranium to Russia, and it's been admitted in the news that Russia was looking to corner the entire uranium market. And now they're acting like we need to fight Russia and we need to go to war with them and we need to kick all of their media sources out of our country. This is how sick and disgusting these people are. That's the same people who just gave them a bunch of uranium. Now they're like, whoa, they can't even exist. These people are not good. And if you don't understand why I feel this way, if you don't understand why hundreds of millions of people feel this way, Asians, Latinos, black people, white people, people from Italy, people from Europe, people from all over the place feel this way, it's never going to go away, and it's not going to go away because the movement's too strong. And that's why you see people, unfortunately, getting violent, because when you know how to have a conversation and you know how to connect with someone and listen to someone, you don't have to get violent. You don't have to yell at somebody. You don't have to raise your voice. You just have an argument. But when you don't have an argument, when your whole reality is literally like one big lie, that's when you start exploding. Like I posted a joke from President Trump and basically said I knew it was a joke, and I said it's funny, and you know what I'm saying? I was just like laughing at it and making a statement about people who get mad. Some of the comments I'm reading, and even, I mean, I get it. People can say, okay, I think Fox News is just as bad as CNN. I think it's worse than CNN. I understand that. Like, I'm not allowing people to speak their opinions. I understand why people feel that way. I totally know why you would feel that way. But some of the comments, they're like, I just want to knock Sean Hannity's teeth out. They're admittedly being violent to someone. The person I hate the most in the world, the news analyst that I find is the biggest phony in the world, I would never in a million years threaten them with violence. I mean, Rachel Maddow, I can't stand. I think she's a liar. I think she's a conspiracy theorist. And I think she's a total fraud who spreads misinformation, negativity, and in some cases, you know, pours mental illness into people's heads. I really do think she spreads mental illness. So I dislike her very, very strongly. I think she's a toxic American who is misleading millions of people who love her and trust her. But even with that said, I don't want to hurt her. I don't even want to kick her off the air. That's censorship. I think until her news organization decides otherwise, she deserves a spot there. She deserves all her money, and she can exist peacefully, and I hope she has a great weekend and a great week, and, you know, I have a lot of love for her. I want to debate her. I don't want to hit her. I want to have a conversation with her. So it's very telling to me when the people who are literally intolerable, it's like they don't want to have a real conversation. They're so comfortable with the society lie. And I'm telling you, as respectfully and nicely as possible and as honest and as accurate as possible, why the silent majority exists, who the silent majority really is, and how to potentially disarm, not that I think you're going to be able to, but disarm the silent majority and, you know, get on common ground and get your policies and get your ideologies passed, or whatever you're trying to accomplish. I have no idea, but this problem's never going to go away. The silent majority is never going to go away because everybody's lying about it. Even people that I respect and love, that I consider some of the most intelligent people in the United States, people like Cornel West. I think Cornel West, I think he's a genius. I think he's a very positive influence on this society. I don't think he understands the silent majority, and I think he lies about the silent majority. Noam Chomsky, I think his work has done America great. I think he's one of the most intellectual and politically important people as far as analysis in the United States in the past 20, 30 years, talking about the media, you know, telling the truth about a lot of stuff when it wasn't popular. I think Noam Chomsky is brilliant, but I think he's lying about the silent majority. He's not telling the truth about the silent majority, and the problem's never going to go away. I don't know if he's old. I don't know if he's just such an anarchist that he doesn't want to, you know, consider the free market a solution. I don't know what it is. No hate, no disrespect, but he's lying about the silent majority. CNN is lying about the silent majority. MSNBC is lying about the silent majority. ABC and CBS, they're lying about the silent majority. Huffington Post is lying about the silent majority. Newsweek is lying about the silent majority. You know, Washington Post and New York Times and Mother Jones, they're all lying about the silent majority. All Democrats are lying about the silent majority. Almost all progressives, I mean, I would say there's a few very honest progressives who kind of understand it. Besides that, they're lying about the silent majority and lying about something and making up a whole other situation, a whole other scenario in your head and expecting it to just one day be true when it's just not true. And I've seen the silent majority grow and grow and grow. It's never going to go away if you don't understand. And I'm finding people just don't understand. They can't have a rational conversation about border security without screaming racism and losing their mind and, in some cases, you know, attacking people. You can't have a conversation about travel security. So, I mean, what do you think you're accomplishing. That's all. I'm just in a respectful, real way. You're making extremists more extreme. Just like when the conservatives scream at Colin Kaepernick and say, you're a loser, you're a piece of shit, this and that, you're nothing, blah, 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 make fun of you, you're not the man of the year. You're making the left-wing extremists and the communist extremists and the, racial activist, hypocrite extremists and, some people who are decent people doing a good job, you're making them more extreme. It's the same thing. So if you continue to call a bunch of people racist and sexist and xenophobic who aren't racist, sexist, xenophobic, you're making them more extreme, and in some cases, you're making people more racist. So it happens both on the fringe sides, for sure. Like I say, nobody is above it, and that's just to make a statement. I know some people just can't handle the truth when it doesn't go in their direction, but nobody is above anything. If you think you're a better person than someone because of your political views, even the Trump side, just because you support President Trump and you might be on the right side of history in some people's opinions, doesn't make you a good person because you like somebody else. What makes you a good person is things you do and, other things. And I'm not here to judge who's good and bad. Everyone has flaws, everyone has weaknesses, everybody sins, and everybody, makes mistakes. But there's this, weird thing that's going around that people think they're good people just because of their political views or what they support. And in many cases, I found some of the biggest political activists and some of the most, oh my God, F the police, F this, F capitalism. They're some of the worst, most negative energy, bad people who I would trust even least than the current politicians. A lot of the people I know that are tear the whole system down. It's for you? No, thank you. I'll take President Trump over you. But this is the reality. And I could talk all day about all of the things that the silent majority really cares about. Even when it comes down to Western culture and American society. The media and the Trump haters, and the reason that I address them more than the others, because the, fringe side of the right and whatnot, I don't think they're that big. And the reason that they keep getting bigger is because of the billions of dollars. You have every media source, every social media, every day paint the silent majority incorrectly. Every single day. They make the same mistake every single day. The same mistake that elected Donald Trump, the same mistake that, misrigged the election and ended up actually going against them. And they think that the problem is going to be solved by making the same mistake every single day. And even the most tolerant people that I know, and barring a few, I think there are some great people who really truly get it, but if you got it, you would correct the way you're handling it. Because most people, even my most tolerant people that I know, they still don't want to accept who the silent majority really is. And it now includes, like I said, environmentalists. It now includes spiritual people. I know a lot of yoga teachers who tell me, really spiritual people who tell me, Anomaly, I love you, I love your message, I love what you say, and I agree with you completely about the president and how people are acting, because a true spiritual person, a true yogi, understands the power of now, the power of the present moment, the power of, consciousness and positive energy. So true spiritual people would not be, the anti-Trump ridiculous crowd, because it goes against pretty much every, spiritual philosophy there is of changing yourself to change the world. And I get hit up by a lot of them. There's yogis and there's, spiritual teachers in the silent majority from all over. I got invited to Mexico. They said, fly out and you can stay at my shrine. People in Mexico. It's not racist. It's literally people who live in this country saying, we like Anomaly. We don't like Rachel Maddow. We're listening to you. People of all ethnicities, all jobs, everything. The silent majority is so massive. And it's so strange to me that this simple, basic conversation that I'm having right now, to get both sides to understand, the side that I'm on, I wouldn't say on, but the side that they're a part of it, they already understand. They know, and they're frustrated, and every single day they get bombarded with misinformation. But the side that's opposing everything that I'm saying, if you don't understand what I'm telling you, your world is going to be a mass confusion, because it's not going to change. There are hundreds of millions of people who support President Trump. There's hundreds of millions of people who are sick of political correctness. There's hundreds of millions of people who are able to have rational conversations about the United States, about the world, about foreign policy, and about security, and about the economy, and about taxes, and about healthcare, that don't tweak out and explode when someone disagrees with them. There's hundreds of millions of them, and they're not going away. It doesn't matter how much the news lies. And that's why I go at the mainstream media so hard, is because I see what they're doing to my friends. I see what they're doing to my family members. I see what they're doing to my neighbors. I see what they're doing to people in my city. I see what they're doing to people in my country. And I see what they're doing to people all over the world. And they're literally, in some cases, creating mental illness in these people. And a lot of people that I know that are so overwhelmed by what's happening to President Trump, they tell me, they're like, I'm depressed. I take pills. I do all this stuff. I hate everything. I mean, I would too if I believed what they said on the news. That's why I'm not, no disrespect to people who have mental illness. God bless you. And I know it's a real thing, and I know it's, you know, it's a real phenomenon, and I'm not downplaying that or anything. But what I am saying is people that don't have mental illness and shouldn't have mental illness now have a mental illness because the news spreads mental illness to people. They spread negativity. They spread hate. They spread misinformation every single day. Yes, racists exist. Yes, there are racists who like Trump. Yes, there are a lot of racists who don't like Trump and hate Trump. Some of the most racist people hate Trump. But there's hundreds of millions of people who are good people. And even, in my opinion, I don't believe in bad people. I believe in, you know, bad energy, and I believe in bad situations, and I believe in people who are stuck and they're lost and they're hurt. But I don't believe in bad people. The most racist Latino or Black or Asian person I know, I don't think they're terrible people. I think they're hurt, they're lost, and they're confused. A racist white person, I don't think they're a terrible person. I think they're hate, they're lost, and they're confused. And when you understand that someone's hate, lost, and confused, you can actually help them solve their problem rather than making it worse. If you just scream at them and call them things that they aren't and don't address their concerns, you're going to make them more racist. So the racists on both sides are just going to get more extreme, and especially the 99% of people who aren't racist, that are just sick of all the BS, they're not going away. And I don't get it. I've had conversations with tens of people who don't like President Trump, and almost all of them, if not all of them, won't accept what I'm saying. They won't even consider it. They don't want to listen. They don't want to imagine that maybe President Trump doesn't just want the money. Maybe President Trump has so much money and he is so arrogant that he's not working for the politicians, that he's doing his own thing, that he's doing what he thinks is in the best interest of this country. Because it's a huge possibility, and you could see it in his actions. If you don't read the news and you watch his actions, you will be like, wow, he does switch on a dime. It's not, I mean, I know he has some negative qualities, but I've never seen a president that doesn't just do what other people say and doesn't have a set ideology. They act like it's such a bad thing. Any intelligent person, any decent person learns, and they don't have set ideologies that they go by in politics. I mean, to me, that shows how phony most politicians are. When you talk about progressives and, oh, all I care about is single-payer health care, this and that, to me, that tells me you're incapable of learning, you're incapable of evolving, you're incapable of growing, and you're incapable of using every single day and every single person you meet and every single documentary you watch and every single book you read and every single new piece of information that you intake. You're incapable of changing. It doesn't, to me, that doesn't mean, oh, wow, they're the real deal. They've been saying the same thing for 50 years. It shows me that you're stubborn. Because if you can't change how you feel, if you can't change on DACA, or you can't change on the elephants, you know, being killed or poached in Africa, then you're not a good person. You're not a smart person. You're a dumb person. You're a weak person, and you think you're better than other people because of your idea set, and in which many cases is a pure disaster. And I'm not judging either side or hating on either side. That's just the truth. That the news flips everything, not just about President Trump, about the wars, about everything. And this is just a public service announcement to who the silent majority really is, why everybody, the silent majority themselves, and the haters of President Trump, the haters of conservatives, the haters of anybody who literally disagrees with them in any sort of form, even if they're not this, it's getting stronger. And I get messages every single day that it's growing and growing and growing and growing because intolerance leads to that. When you don't listen to someone, when you don't learn about someone, and when you project, and it's so creepy, it's so weird to me that this has to be the most honest and accurate analysis of the silent majority. It's creepy to me that if you search about President Trump, or you search about conservatives, or you search about right wing, or you could search about, people who, want the end of regime change wars, or people who are, common sense approved, it's creepy to me that 99% of the articles what you find are a complete lie. It's creepy to me that every time I log into Facebook, they're lying to me. It's creepy to me every time I log into Twitter, they're lying to me and all my friends and spreading negativity and spreading hate and spreading misinformation. That's creepy to me, because everything I said right now is not that revolutionary. Everything I said right now is not that complex. It's not mean. It's not hateful. It's not a conspiracy theory. It's the truth. I know it because I speak to people. I know it because I meet people, and I've met very few, if any, racist people. To be honest, I've met hundreds upon thousands. I went to Politicon. I go to events. I talk to both sides of the political spectrum, and the more intelligent people usually like President Trump, and they usually have wives and kids and are from different countries and have different religions and ethnicities and different skin colors, and they're just sick of the BS, but they don't want to tell everyone because everyone's so fake. They're so indoctrinated in political correctness. They've been lied to for so long. They've been told that the way to solve their own problems is by projecting it on other people, and they're told if we don't increase government and everything's not socialized, that everybody's going to die. I mean, this is the lie they've portrayed to other people. And the point of this conversation right now is to not get into what policies are better or worse, because to be honest, I don't really care about policies. I care about human evolution. I care about consciousness. I care about energy. I don't care about policies. I don't care about legislation. They honestly, in a large portion of things, they lie about a lot of those too. And I'm going to get into, just to let you know before I leave, people keep asking me, you got to make a video on net neutrality. I'm studying more. I really got to research before I make a big video on net neutrality. But even that, people may be surprised because they put a big, nice title on it. That's how they get you. Oh, it's the Affordable Care Act. And meanwhile, not trying to get into a discussion on how good or bad that was. I know it's helped a lot of people. It's hurt a lot of people. But Affordable Care Act. Oh, yeah, affordable care. I mean, people, their premiums are going up 700%, 800%, and mine went up 100%, 200%. I mean, it's not affordable care just because of the title. Same with, they title something, they push it to people, and then the legislation's like 100 pages long. So what does it say? It doesn't take 100 pages to say some of the stuff they're saying. It's how they get you. But I'm not here to talk about legislation. I'm not here to have a debate on what the best healthcare is, what the best border security. I don't really care. What I do care about, though, is we're never going to solve these problems if we can't have a conversation about them. And the news and people left-leaning and centrist or whoever, almost everybody is lying about who the silent majority is. Who they are is who I just told you they are. It's never going to change just because you're too stubborn to grasp the reality of who the silent majority is, and that it's a lot of people, and we're sick and tired of the nonsense. Some people are silent, but more people are getting louder and louder and louder and louder because the opposition to the silent majority is trying to do everything that they act against. They're being racist, they're being sexist, they're being xenophobic, and they're trying to violently attack people and take people off the air as opposed to have a conversation with them. It's very, very bizarre stuff. Thank you so much for listening. God bless you. God bless your family. God bless the world. I'm going to put my link below, my email list if you would love to sign up. It takes 15 seconds. We can stay connected. Also, my donation link for my news analysis. It's 100% funded by people. I'm going to have some cool products for you guys in the future as another way to keep the movement going. I'm going to have water purifiers, hopefully stress balls, and I want to, sell a lot of stuff that I believe in that that could help people, as opposed to just like the major news corporations where they sell people pills, they sell people misinformation, they sell people like whatever they will for $1. I never want to do that. I want to do, products that I believe in. So that's coming in the future. I have my podcast, Rare Talk Podcast. Check that out on Apple and Google. A lot of cool stuff going on. Thank you so much for listening. Maybe tag a friend if they would like to listen. Maybe not. I don't know. Maybe even this very simple conversation might trigger people and make them upset. But it's a conversation that needs to be had because I truly do want both sides of the political spectrum to be happy, and I'm finding a pattern that people who oppose President Trump, while they're very allowed to do so, they're intolerant to anybody who doesn't agree with them, and they just won't stop. And if you don't stop and you keep pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing people, it's not going to get the result that you think it's going to get. You're never going to beat him in 2020. The only way you can beat him is by, they're trying to impeach him. That's because they know that everything they've told people is a lie. So I'm not trying to hurt you. I'm not trying to tell you to agree with all his policies. I'm not trying to tell you to be a conservative or a right wing. I don't really care about what policies that you like. But what I am telling you is if you really do want to win and want to solve the problem and stop being, in a world that you think is going the wrong way, you have to understand the problem or the solution's never going to come. And almost every single news analyst, almost every single media source, almost every single social media site is lying about who the silent majority is. I didn't ask them to do that. I didn't wish that they did that. I wouldn't even have to be here if they didn't do that. But the reality is so far from what they're saying. And they use the terms right-wing and they use the terms, all of this stuff to shield the truth and to convince very good people not to look at the truth and not to find the truth, and both sides can be guilty of it for sure. I think there's definitely some right-wing people that do it. And, anytime someone doesn't agree with someone on the right, they're like, oh, George Soros is paying them. Oh, they're all George Soros trolls. Not everyone who hates the president is a George Soros troll. George Soros exists. He does fund a lot of stuff, and he's putting billions of dollars into his Open Society Foundation to pretty much, socially ruin our country. But doesn't mean that everyone who hates Trump is a George Soros guy. There's millions of people who hate President Trump who aren't being paid by George Soros. Just letting you know, it goes both ways, but the silent majority, hundreds of millions of people, mostly good people, 95% people who are just sick and tired of the nonsense, and it's never going to stop until you at least consider, you don't have to believe it, but consider what I'm saying. And if you can't consider it, I don't know what to tell you. Thank you so much for listening. Have a good day.